Want to expand the reach of your content? Start a podcast. Feature industry experts on your show and leverage the influence and reach of your guests to grow your brand. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got here with me today, Matt Benati, who is CEO and co-founder of Lead Gnome, also a Boy Scout, a blogger, and a Bruins fan. Matt, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
He's recovered from the heartbreak. We talked about the soft line. But so Matt,
I thought in seventh game, home ice, we were going to do it. You know, hats off to St. Louis, but boy, we really wanted the cup back home in Boston.
And so as a Cowboys fan, I kind of delight in Boston sports fans being upset, but I want us to be friends, so never mind. Anyway.
I hear you. No, I get it.
So we're going to talk about email mining, but more importantly, we're going to be talking about why it's important for marketing and sales teams to pay attention to the information that they can gain from reply emails, which is not a subject that I had a lot of experience with before getting the absolute pleasure of meeting Matt. And as Matt and I talked about offline, really not something that a lot of, especially individual contributors on sales floors, really know about or understand. So, but before we get into all that, Matt, I would love for you to just give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at Lead Gnome have been up to these days.
Yeah, sure. Love to do that. So my background basically is all in the B2B space, whether that's my early days where I was a coder and an architect, so I come out of a technical background and made my way through product management, product marketing into full-blown marketing. And, I've always had this thirst to learn and to understand customers and what they're looking for, what they need. Sometimes they don't even know what they need, and that's a whole different subject. But I've really enjoyed the progression over towards this business side. And I happened upon a great idea out of my own experience, right? Lead Gnome is built because I had noticed as I moved further and further over to marketing that these auto responses that we all get, whether we're marketing folks or sales folks, we get these auto responses, the out of office or the left the company or, whatever it happens to be, as well as personal responses, the not so good ones, unsubscribes, but the other hand raisers. And all of these replies provide us with a data source that really help us go over the top in our ability to engage with the folks that we're reaching out to. And so that's, the passion, because as I started to do that work manually, my sales teams accelerated because the data is highly relevant. We can talk about the difference between replies and emails coming at us directly. Replies are always on target because they're a reply to something that we have sent out in an attempt to engage someone, a best fit account, if we want to use the ABM term. And so replies are just chock full of incredible information. And for the most part, as a community, we ignore them. I'm here to tell you, we should not be ignoring that data. It is vital to the success, and it is clearly a competitive advantage if you can leverage the information in these replies.
Yeah, and that really comes across in a lot of the case studies that you guys have available as far as folks who are seeing results from that. And that kind of leads me into one of the first things I wanted to talk about on this subject, and that's who in an organization should own this endeavor, right? Who should own email marketing? Why is it important to, let's say, for the marketing team to, own it? Why would it be important for the sales team? Sort of talk about those two things for us.
Yeah, so marketing is the traditional center of sending emails, right? And we've all heard the negative things of spray and pray. ABM has kind of had a resurgence, and the whole idea ABM, at least from my perspective, and there's lots of definitions, but alignment between marketing and sales is critical, right? Because sales has always focused on accounts, and marketing traditionally had focused on leads. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're overlapping. And what ABM attempts to do is to align that, let's focus in on accounts as a holistic sales and marketing team, singular. And, the marketing campaigns should be endeavoring to understand these accounts better and find the folks within the accounts that can help. And so what's really important here is that both marketing and sales, and it's kind of newer for sales because of the cadence systems out there like Outreach and SalesLoft and Yesware, right? We're sending emails into organizations as one part of our go-to-market. And many times the sales and marketing teams are coordinated on this. Sometimes they're not. But we are getting replies back as professionals, and how we address those replies, how we leverage those replies is critically important for today's sales and marketing teams. There's a ton of great information that provides competitive advantage. We just need to work with that to engage our customers in a more effective way.
So a question that comes to mind is, because we're going to get into the sales aspects of it here in a minute, but on a marketing team, I'm not as familiar. What are some of the painful aspects to doing this manually for marketers?
Right. So there's a couple of them. The first sort of high level one is where marketing sends out an email to a segment of the database. And I'll say that we should all be sending to segments, not just blasting the entire group, right? Because we want our emails to be personalized and have the right message for segment A versus segment B. Mm-hmm. So they're sending emails out, and the first scenario is where the replies are coming back to, let's just say, marketing@company.com, right? A marketing common or shared mailbox. And the pain point here is that generally these emails are either in a cadence kind of model, a nurture program is what they traditionally are called, and or a blast, right? And by blast, I don't mean the old style, all 450,000 people in a database, but to a segment that you want to invite to an event, a webinar, dinner, or here's, a new piece of content that you think is important. The pain comes when these replies, which are high volume replies, come back to this marketing mailbox and nobody has time to go look at it. And I headed up marketing for Log Me In, right? The folks that make Join Me and a bunch of other things.
Yeah.
And we were sending lots of emails. We had 40 people on staff, $40 million in budget when I was there, and we still didn't have time to go look at these things, right? So that's pain point one. And just a little extra on that, the biggest pain point is certainly the pain, I guess, of the volume of auto responses like out of office. But I think the biggest pain is the human replies, the personal replies, where somebody says, thanks for the invite to the webinar. I know I can't make it. Can you invite this person? Or thanks for the ebook. Can you get me in touch with a salesperson? I'm ready to dig deeper. Those are few and far between, generally speaking, from a marketing outreach, but they're significant, highly powerful if we can engage those people immediately.
So when you said that, we talked about this offline, and when you gave that scenario of somebody sending a personal reply, but that's by some rule gets categorized as an auto response, I got a cold chill about my Gmail. And I had that exact rule set up. And so now I'm like looking at going through and do I need to sift back through these hundreds of emails and find out if I've lost something in there? And then what do I even have the time?
It's like so painful. Yeah.
Oh my God.
No, it's exactly right. And so categorizing each and every one of those is a critical part of what we should be doing as marketers and as salespeople, right? And so that's sort of step one. And then going in and extracting the information, that is so painful to do it manually, right? Because first we got to open every one of them.
Yep.
We've got to read through it. And then we got to move that data somehow to our, marketing automation platforms or to our CRMs. It's just so painful to do. We don't have the time and we don't have the money to go hire, 2-3 people to handle the volume. And so and if you did, it'd be very expensive, right? These folks, they would be hiring could be 60, 80,000 a year. And that's costly.
Yeah. And
right?
you know
That's
what?
wicked costly.
Or you're taking them, like you're having someone who's already a part of the organization, just add that to their list of responsibilities, and you're taking them away from other revenue generating things. And the example that I have of that, the reason why I asked you first, what are the pains for marketers, is because I think I'm acquainted with what the pains are for salespeople. I worked at this organization.
Right.
They're a great organization. They're doing really well. I'm in the B2B SaaS space here in Austin. And being a startup, there was this problem, a good problem to have, but so many leads, but with data that needed to be cleaned, enriched.
Yeah.
We didn't even think about going back into email replies for that. I can only imagine if we were doing that manually.
Yeah.
But we would have these sessions. What I'm getting at as far as the pain and the time is we would all get, all the salespeople, we get this email that told us, hey, this % of your leads or your accounts have these categories of data missing at this %, right? So 50% of your accounts don't have the right name or don't have a phone number or whatever.
Title is wrong. Right. We don't have phone numbers, all those kinds of things.
And so then what we had to do was in a work day that ends at 6 or 5, at 2 p.m., you are in this group 1 where you guys are going to be taken off the sales floor to go into a conference room, and all of you sit there together and manually go online and try and find these pieces of data and see how in a given week or month how much we can get this data up to par. And
absolutely. So think about that, right? You're taking 2 hours out of, let's just say, an 8-hour day, right? So it's a 25%. So 25% of your week is doing something that until recently couldn't be automated. Right now, with the advancement of AI, the combination of natural language processing for the technical folks out there and machine learning, we're able to break open the body of the email. Where in an auto response, all the data resides, right? You don't find it you can find it in signatures, but signatures are often not there. So if somebody's out of the office and they say, I'm out until Monday, contact Sally while I'm gone, because urgent, here's my cell phone, that's all in the body. And if you can't break down that information and extract it using some means, in our case, artificial intelligence, then you're going to have to do it manually.
Yeah.
And that's really painful.
It's a nightmare. It's a flat out
nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. So marketers have volume that they generally deal with that's painful. The other thing that's painful is the lack of visibility when marketing sends on behalf of their sales team, right? This happens all the time. I'm going to send out emails, and the reply to is going to be to the individual salespeople, right? So the marketer has no way, even if they wanted to, there's no way for them to go into the salesperson's mailbox and start looking at those auto replies. They've lost all control and all ability to measure because the salespeople are very busy, just like you mentioned. So that's a real problem. We're seeing that much more often because companies want to be hyper personalized. And what does that mean? That means having a real person, not a marketing at company.com, but a real person, and who better than the salespeople? And now you've lost.
What happens then? And I know that you've been using a lot of ABM terms, and I think what you're talking about is put to its best use in an ABM model. But what would happen then, and this is another example from that organization that I was talking about, is that the salespeople don't like that either. The salespeople also don't like this idea of not having insight into what's happening with marketing emails,
Absolutely,
with replies and things like that. They're afraid that they might double up. And so there's all these things. And so then it directly contributes to that friction that can sometimes exist at organizations when it comes to marketing and sales alignment. It directly contradicts that goal. And so I'm always excited to hear about things like this that can help turn the ship around when it comes to that, because I think that the next thing we have to just get over that hump, it's going to be lights out, and not mostly even just for salespeople and marketers, but for buyers.
This is right. We always have to remember that this is for the customers. Yes, selfishly, we want to drive revenue, but you're not going to do that if you don't truly want to help the customer, right? That's where it all comes from. If you're thinking about the customer all the time, then you're going to have a much better relationship. That customer will know that you're looking out for them, and everything runs smoothly. If you're only after revenue at any cost, you may do okay short term, but long term, you're going to have churn, you're going to have all kinds of problems, right? So if we turn our attention now to the sales folks, not only are they getting this marketing air cover where they're receiving the replies, but they're also sending emails. You know, maybe they're sending them from a sales loft, right, or an outreach, or maybe they're from, well, even HubSpot now has a sequence kind of thing. And so email is much more pervasive across the sales development organizations in an automated way. Yes, they personalize, but the main point here is that the replies come right back to that salesperson. And while that's good, the challenge, first of all, in the mailbox, just in the inbox, is they're getting so much more back at them. And it's clogging up their mailbox. They can't see the person that responded, hey, yes, I would love to chat more. Can we set up a meeting? Because for every one of those, they probably got 10 out of office, or left the company, and unsubscribes, bounces, right? Bounces are horrific. Mm-hmm. And what is a salesperson to do with this cluttered mailbox? So I hear very often that the salesperson wants to just delete, get rid of, and they call it junk. And when I provide them with the knowledge that LeadNome automates that, they're like, you have a junk filter? Now, we don't like to think of it that way, but yes, because we categorize everything, right? And we move it out of their inbox into nicely organized folders. So they, you can go back to those. But what's left in the inbox is only the human replies. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what they're looking for. They know exactly what to do now. Every one of these, I just go and hit reply and engage that person. And all the auto responses have been moved, all the data extracted and moved into their Salesforce.
Yeah, that's the other piece, right? Because you can use your whoever your email client is to, like Gmail, to set up rules like we talked about, to where it move that stuff out of your way. But like we talked about, there might be errors in how you program that, and so some stuff has slipped through the cracks. And then further, even if you are just moving it out of your way, but you're not doing anything with it, you're not mining it like LeadNome is helping people do, then it's still a loss. So I just think It's incredibly valuable for an organization to understand what they're leaving on the table in terms of the information that they could be mining to enrich their database, and just the time and the lack of clutter. I think for me, when I was, in these individual contributor roles as an SDR, as an account executive, that was, 30% of the stuff, maybe 50%, depending on the day, of the stuff that was just here in my head all jumbled up before I could even get to a starting point, was what my inbox looked like and what I could and could not move out of the way, and being able to trust the data and that was there on the leads that I was trying to engage. And so this is just kind of
absolutely
lights out. But I could talk about this forever. I unfortunately do not have forever. So for folks out there who I know are feeling like I'm feeling and like, hey, what's the first step in making something like this happen in my own organization? How should folks think about this, or what would you give them as a one last little note, folks who are thinking about implementing something like this for themselves?
Yeah, I think you have to look at your scenario and determine how much of a pain point this is. Now, what I think is somewhat hidden is the pain is, I'd say, in the background potentially, right? Because so many people don't know the power of the data in there. So, for instance, by looking at out of office and left the company emails, you can increase the size of your database, account specific, by the way. Okay. So not just something random, but in mapping out the account with decision makers and influencers, you can add 20% to your database. That is critically important in a B2B sale because no one person makes the sale anymore. And so you need to surround and map out that account. And when you're looking at replies, you're getting it. All that information is coming back directly from the account. So you know it's fresh and you know it's very, very relevant. So that's one thing. And I would also say that, and I know this is self-serving, but I did this myself for years. It is so painful, time consuming to do this manually. So, and now with systems like a lead gnome, it's so cost effective to outsource it to a SaaS solution like a lead gnome, right? Because you don't want your highly paid salespeople or your highly paid marketing operations people to be dealing with this problem, right? They could be, well, we all know, right? 80,000 plus a year, any time that they're spending. And we talked about maybe a quarter of their time. That's opportunistic, opportunity cost of not being able to go and sell more, as well as the error prone nature of doing this manually. Yeah. It adds up to a thing where this is just one of those things that is now a must have. And it's becoming mainstream because it's so accurate that you should just outsource this to a SaaS like a lead gnome. And that's sort of where I think the market is at. And if you're not doing this, you're missing out on huge competitive advantages, timing advantages from this information, right? Timing's everything. So let me just give you one thing. Like when somebody's out of the office, because you're looking at them now, and hopefully in an automated fashion, you know when they're coming back to the office. So you can very easily set up a task for the lead owner to, call them the day after they get back. Let them clean up from their vacation or whatever, right, and call them the next day. They're going to be there. They're going to be ready to go.
Yep. I think that is great advice. And I'm super glad that you came on the show to talk to me and our listeners about this, because like I said, and like you've made the case for, right? It is this pain that often exists in the background that more people are experiencing than I had any idea about. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I don't have time to really do what I wanted to do as far as getting into what learning resources I like to, when I talk to folks and I sort of pick their brain and see what I can get out of it. I like to talk about what they're putting into it. Real quick though, do you have a book you've read recently that is informing your approach or that you're excited about that you can sort of recommend to the folks listening?
Yeah, probably not a book, but I follow a couple of folks that I think do provide a lot of great information in both marketing ops and in sales. So okay. I think folks like Sangram, Rajay, right. Sangram is awesome. He always has some great tips and some things to think about. And I would also say that I learn from other pros on the sales side, right? So somebody like Alice Hyman, who really understands how to tackle these challenges, or somebody like Trish Bertuzzi. I love both of those ladies. They are so engaged and so knowledgeable on the sales side. I'm always finding out some new tactics as well as strategy pieces from folks like that.
Great answers. Obviously, we are on the same page when it comes to that. And you know what? I'd say for folks who are listening to this and have just heard you make this case for what it is that you do so passionately, I'd say you're a person to follow as well. How can people keep up with you, Matt?
Sure. So Twitter is just Matt Benati. That's the handle. Same on LinkedIn. And, if you're at all interested in this whole notion of reply email mining, I'm happy to talk about it. I do think it's rather challenging to do manually, and I've been in the trenches doing that, but I'm happy to talk to you about tricks for that, as well as what LeadGnome can do. And frankly, at this point, it's so cost effective over trying to do it manually and so accurate. I think you'd quickly recognize that you might as well just set it and forget it. And have it do it for you. But anyway, check out leadgnome.com, and you can reach me, matt@leadgnome.com.
Perfect. So you guys heard it here, man. If you feel like I feel, go run out and connect with Matt and follow along with some of the content he's putting out there and see if he can maybe make your life a little easier. Thank you so much, Matt. This was great. This was everything that I like for these shows to be, fun and informative. Hopefully we'll be able to have you on the show again in the future and really dig into some of the case studies. I know that's what I had a chance to take a look at before talking to you today. And it really is exciting stuff as far as the types of organizations that have been able to benefit from what you guys are doing. So thanks again.
Yeah, much appreciated.
No problem.
Yeah, much appreciated.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.